So this is Plus Local Support. This is our first episode. It's something I've wanted to do for like ages. Never really had like a good opportunity to until now, obviously because of the way the world is and stuff. So just be like a music podcast. So, you know, all the music that we grew up with. So my name's Steph. With me, you got Steve and Carl.
Howdy.
Yeah, we're all from the same town, Swindon. Known each other for probably more than 15 plus years, I'd say.
It's got to be about that, man.
Yeah, for sure.
It's been a long time. We've all played in bands and, you know, we've all grown up in that scene from like 20 years ago. Because when I was thinking about this, I was like, oh, music from 20 years ago. So that's the 80s, right? No, it's not anymore. Time's moved on.
Yeah. I used to do this thing as well, thinking about when I started doing music and then thinking about music 20 years ago, and that was technically classed as classic rock.
Yeah.
And now you think, well, but does that mean music from the 90s is now classic rock too? Like, how does that work?
This is the one thing I found when I was going through kind of the questions and when putting together some answers, that we're fucking old.
Yeah.
you know, really old, and it's a bit embarrassing to be honest. You look at it and you go, yeah, that was like 10. No, it was 25 years ago.
Yeah.
How'd you feel? Man. Crazy.
Well, it's good to always reminisce, you know, and to be fair, I think the time when we were that age back then is a hell of a lot better than what it is now. Not through any fault of, you know,
fucking millennials.
Yeah.
The music was better, that's for sure.
That's what we were all thinking. Yeah. So yeah.
So the music was better. The music was better back then for sure.
For sure. So yeah, just a quick sort of introduction, I guess. Just like first music memories of like before we even got into pop punk, rock, alternative, whatever you want to call it. Does anyone want to go first at all? Or?
I don't mind.
Carl, yeah, you go.
Yeah, well, for me, I guess before even any of that, if I think about the earlier stuff that I started listening to is, you know, you listen to your parents' records, don't you? You know, and for me, it was like Queen and Meatloaf and Jerry Rafferty and stuff. But I didn't really have like big like musical like family at all. I'm literally the only musician in my family in any way you can look at it. Cousins, uncles, aunts. That's it. It's just like I'm the only one. So from, you know, my perspective, it was always just, you know, like the stuff that my parents had lying about until such a time as I discovered Green Day. And that was on my 13th birthday when Dookie came out. Literally, Dookie came out like the week before my 13th birthday. And I was just, that was it. I was like, who is this guy? Because back when MTV actually showed music, sure. And I saw Basket Case and I was like, who's this guy? He's really cool. I know he's not, because I guess from the conventional sense of what I was used to, like if I went back to school and said, look at this guy, they'd kick my head in because they'd be like, what the fuck are you doing listening to that freak shit? but because that's how people responded to that music, man. It was quite volatile, really volatile. If you listen to anything slightly alternative, if you weren't listening to like, you know, E17 or whatever the hell that was like in the charts back then, man, you were just like asking for a kick in. So
this thing, if you had a Green Day hoodie, you were ready to get a paste in. Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, really early doors, it was just kind of when MTV actually did have music on, you would just watch those shows and culturally, you know, you think about Beavis and Butthead was on a lot of the time. You had Daria, and you were kind of getting this kind of like fringe culture sort of seeping through into the UK scene and stuff like that. And you'd only see a video of like Nirvana. It'd be like one video. You wouldn't really know much about them, but you just see a video. And, you know, so yeah, I guess I was just influenced by anything that was just slightly out of the ordinary, you know, because it was slightly, you know, it's more interesting than just what you were hearing on Top of the Pops.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think that was it. I just was like, okay, I've never heard guitars played like this. I never heard people sing like this, because I guess when people think about singers, they think about conventional singers and people who are classically trained and, you know,
for sure,
got the vibrato and stuff like that. And then you got someone like Billy Joe Armstrong, who's just sort of like, you know, he's not even pronounced his words properly. If take Basket Case is a perfect example of that. There's a bit was like, oh yeah. It's like, what was that? You know, but even just that was just, you know, brilliant, wasn't it? You know, it's a great song.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, apart from anything else, it still sounds good today. Like you listen to Basket Case
Yeah.
from today, it could be released today and no one would blink. Like it's
Yep.
stood the test of time
Yeah.
for sure.
Definitely. I was
Yeah.
listening to that.
Yeah,
record
I still occasionally.
earlier.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I've still listened to Dookie every now and then. You know, it just comes on rotation, and I don't tend to skip it. It's just a very, very strong album. You know,
Yeah.
but I think, you know, widely recognised as a very strong album and kind of, you know, that cornerstone of pop punk.
Yeah, and
What
ironically,
about yourself, Steve?
yeah, just before we move on to me, the Green Day, it will never be considered their breakthrough album, but actually in terms of what that really did for a generation,
Yeah.
it would definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, American Idiot was the one that allowed him to have enough money to buy some eyeliner. But apart from that, he kind of, it was a totally different. Dara, for me, I'm the total opposite. My whole family are complete musicians. My dad was a drummer. My dad was a drummer in a 60s band
Wow.
for 40 years.
That's awesome, man. See,
so-
I've been all these years and I've only just found that out.
Yeah. I mean, it's only recently he's actually retired from playing drums. There's still a drum kit in one of the bedrooms. He plays guitar as well. So I mean, we've always had all of our kind of family around us have always been extremely musical. For me, very, very, very similar in terms of I picked up on a lot of the 60s stuff when I was very younger because it's all I heard. We used to go and kind of listen to Dad's band play, and of course as a young teenager I was like, this is shit. You know, this is not what I want to hear. But in reality, stuff like the Beatles and the Kinks and the Rolling Stones were more influential than I think I realized at the time, because in terms of Dara, for me, the turning point in music, I mean, I've got two older brothers who were really into that kind of Dara, Nirvana, Foo Fighters stuff. I never really took any notice, and I heard all the small things being played on the radio, and it just blew my mind. His voice at the time was something no one had ever heard of. Tom's. It had that kind of 60s vibe, although it wasn't very 60s. It did have that kind of 60s vibe about it.
It's a very distinctive voice, isn't it?
Still to this day, there's not a Blink-182 song that you put on and you don't go, I know who that is.
Yeah,
exactly.
Because of his voice. You're going to hear a lot about Blink-182 because they are the band for me.
Wow.
They are
also with the picture you have there.
This is actually an official one of 50 gold records of the
awesome.
Take As Much Time. I had it for my birthday a couple of weeks ago, and I'm just absolutely made up. I love it. Every Zoom call I did, if it's work or anything, I'm just this is it. Yeah. But Dara, for me, growing up 60s and then kind of stuff like Thin Lizzy. My dad was a big Thin Lizzy fan. Bruce Springsteen.
Yes.
There was kind of that kind of move into that kind of guitar-y rock, because there was always a guitar in the house. I'd always kind of like dabbled with it. But it's the same with my own son now. My son's 6 and he picks up a guitar and goes, I'll teach some chords. He goes, no, he just Dara just wants to strum it and shout along with it. Where actually I think if I'd have taken a bit more notice much earlier on, I'd have been a much better guitarist for sure. But for me it was definitely that kind of bridge to the minute I heard all the small things. I actually then kind of I was going into my brother's rooms and going, that's a band that sounds like that, and started like taking their CDs, and they'd be like, where's my CD? And it just opened a new world for me. Definitely Blink-182 was definitely the catalyst for me. Then kind of like the Green Days and the your Weezers and stuff like that followed, definitely for me.
I had this thing where obviously the people that I hang around with at the time were considerably older than me. So when they found out, like, they were like, oh, you listen to Green Day? Like because because at that point they had gone from being that band that were on Lookout Records, you know, relatively small, you know, they were still kind of that sort of East Bay punkers, and then once Dookie, it was becoming more sort of mainstream, you know, major record label territory. As soon as that happened, you got this kind of music snobbery, where the people that used to, all of a sudden they were like turning their nose up to, oh, Green Day, pff, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and it's like,
I hate that mentality.
oh my God, it's so annoying. But those people then turned me on to other bands. And to be honest, in 1994 for fucking album releases.
Oh yeah,
Oh my
golden
word.
Mm.
It's absolute golden year. It's ridiculous. Like, so we're going to talk later on about, like, you know, top 5 tracks or whatever that sort of influenced us and stuff like that. But when you think about, you had like, you know, Offspring Smash came out then, you know, and just No Effect, I think Punk Drug. Just, it was just these quite seminal albums that was just really, really important and still are important now. You know, there was a lot of stuff that came out around then, and I was just always getting recommended stuff like, oh, check out this band, check out NoFX, check out Pennywise or anything like that. It was just, you know, it was just so much good stuff coming out. And that sort of influences you a little bit, because there's a lot of peer pressure to sort of get into the music that your friends are listening to and stuff like that. And sometimes it's good and sometimes it's terrible.
Yeah, but it's hard when you're that age, it's hard not to be influenced, you know, by people around you. And I think you have to be really brave to kind of go your own way and try and find out what you like, as opposed to what everyone else likes.
I think definitely. And also kind of a few years after that was the big kind of there was a lot of kind of it was around those kind of days that kind of Kerrang was starting to build, and your Skursum. So actually these bands were a bit more accessible than they probably might have been.
Definitely.
A few years ago, you'd start seeing videos of bands and you'd go, who the hell are these guys? I'd have never found them. Stuff like Sum 41, you'd have never really been involved if you hadn't seen videos on MTV Rocks, that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah, I guess I mean, you've got a hell of a story there, Steve, with like your family being or you know, and your dad and everything playing drums for a long time. But I'm a bit like Carl in that I'm the only one really in my family that I can think of that even plays an instrument, you know. So for me growing up, it was always pop music that I would listen to on the radio. And you know, it was so long ago that I would listen to maybe like the top 40 or whatever and have my cassette ready to take my favorite songs. And like, if kids think they've got it bad now, like that would be like a 2-hour thing on a Sunday, you know. And sometimes you would miss it, you know. You'd be distracted or something.
Well, you had to be invested. You had to be there to do it, didn't you? You know what I mean? Like now you do it whenever you want. Spotify, just whack a playlist together. You're done, isn't it? That's it.
Yeah.
There was nothing worse than having someone talk over the first 5 seconds of Craig David, was there? There literally was nothing worse than that. I can't believe he's spoken over the intro.
It would just be like 90s Britpop, I guess, that I first remember hearing and stuff. You know, Blur, Oasis, stuff like that. You know, just anything. But even then, like, I could tell that I really liked stuff with like guitars and like I knew what a good song was. Like, I like, you know, I like the songs that have a story. Like, that's the kind of songs that I like. And there was plenty of good stuff back then. And I think the band that I was really into back then, when I saw MTV, when they played music, was No Doubt. And I heard the song, that one.
Don't Speak.
Don't Speak, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that just like, that was amazing. And they were probably the first ever band that I properly got into.
Yeah.
But then I got into punk music in a bit of a weird way. But it was literally just through playing Tony Hawk's Pro Skater in like 99 and hearing the song Superman by Goldfinger. And
such a great song.
It's probably the most played song.
It is. It's a belter.
But I've probably heard that song more than any other song in the world. And I've been listening to it a lot recently, especially as in like preparation for this. And of course, the Tony Hawk's remake come out recently as well. So
the thing I love about Goldfinger, apart from we'll get on to John Filmer's producing and stuff like that, but I love their Open Your Eyes record.
yeah.
When I kind of discovered, because I was never really a Tony Hawk's fan. I knew that my brother played it loads, and obviously he knew that song before I did. But in terms of, I kind of discovered that song after that record. You know, when
okay.
when you find a good record and then you go searching for other stuff they've done, you go, I'd heard the song, I didn't know it was by them.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It was quite.
They led the way, and then I got into other bands like Millencolin, Guttermouth, Slick Shoes, Less Than Jake, Ataris, Body Jar, a massive band for me back then.
Fun fact: the first song I ever sung on stage ever in an adult venue was "Lipstick" by Guttermouth.
Oh, classic!
I had my eyes closed the whole time because I was so fucking scared. I was on stage shaking like this with the microphone, and then my friend started playing it. I was like, "Oh shit, what do I do?" And I was like, "Close your eyes!" and just like went into it.
Did you not drink before you go on?
Oh mate, I was just way too nervous. It's like my friend had this sort of like new metal band, but my friend Ian loved Guttermouth, and I love Guttermouth, and it's like we're gonna chuck in a Guttermouth cover. Do you want to come up on stage and sing it? And I was like, yeah, all right, you know. So I just did, and I think that was a pretty. I drank quite heavily afterwards. I think the adrenaline. I was just like, give me booze. But yeah. Anyway, sorry, mate.
No,
I just heard Guttermouth. I was like, fact.
These are the kind of stories that I want to bring up and talk about, because it's it's good. I remember being really nervous when I was first playing, but I found a way around it, and I usually think around 2 or 3 beers.
17 bottles of vodka.
just 2 pints actually is about the right amount to get up on stage, and I kind of had a sort of a weird mentality that I would sort of be like, people don't get nervous when they do karaoke, they just get up there and sing it. So I'm going to pretend that in some ways that this is karaoke. But I always felt more nervous doing covers than I did doing my original stuff, just because people, obviously, they knew the songs really well. So they'd be like, you didn't play that right, or that's wrong, or do you know what I mean? So there was always much pressure. And Steve's in a cover band, so I can't imagine how you feel.
Yeah.
It's weird. I actually found the other way around. Because with a cover, it's written, if you get it wrong, you've got it wrong because it's something that you've fucked up. Where actually, if you write on your own song and you're trying to put that song across and you play it wrong, you've almost done your own stuff an injustice. So it's worse, I think.
I get that, but no one can notice, are they? Like, I mean, for example, I can remember one of the last gigs I played with my old band. We rushed a song because we needed to fill up a set, and like we had literally only played it like 2 or 3 times. The music was fine, but it was that bit, when you got to try and get over the hills of trying to remember the verses and stuff, and it got so bad that I actually forgot the lyrics on the day, so I made them up on the spot. I just made up whatever.
Hey, you're a freestyle rapper, mate. It's fine.
The funny thing is, I could see people in the crowd kind of like being like, just kind of digging it, and I'm there thinking, I can't remember what I'm saying. But
that's how the Red Hot Chili Peppers write every record, I assume, because he just gets in the booth and goes, press record. I'm going in.
Oh, brilliant! Yeah.
Do that,
yeah, I think. Yeah, exactly. He didn't write that down, did he? Let's be honest.
Are they sound checking, or are they?
It is on that kind of vibe of like the 2-pint rule. That was one thing, especially in the early Jeff Like Usual days. We were in the wrong generation, because all my favorite bands around me. The perfect example, there was a local band called Broken Daylight, which obviously we all know. I've never known anyone drink so much and be so competent on stage. And the number of times that we got to support them and play gigs, we were sat there with like pint of icy water, and I'd done my voice just needs to be right for this arrangement. And so you'd get them who were drunk before they arrived. They'd done a day session of drinking. They turned up, and they were better than we were, sober, had a great night's sleep.
That's rock and roll. That's, that's what bands do. That's.
But I'm still to this day, even with, it's a bit more serious now with the functions and the weddings, because in the day nobody likes to piss band at their wedding. But in terms of, we've always had that mentality of nobody drinks before a gig. We've just always had that. It's basically like being in Nazi Germany, being an Interlight, to be fair.
So,
it kind of has to be though, because ultimately, because you think about it, we're talking about going from being in bands where you would show up for a gig and you would barely have your petrol money covered, versus someone paying you several £100s for the most important day of their life. So you have a certain responsibility not to be a complete.
I think actually that's why it was such an easy transition for us, because we were already prepped for that already. As an originals band, we would go to Area 51 and drink pints of water before we went on stage, and we were probably by far the only band that have ever drank water at Area 51.
That place, I swear, like didn't that nearly get closed down because of the underage drinkers were there?
I mean, I was one of them.
Dude, it was so bad.
It was, dude. I remember
it was bad, but it was also it was a breeding ground for people who wanted to be a musician. I mean, we did our first gig there, and it was the most terrified I've ever been in my whole life. That mentality, because also it was packed every week. It wasn't the case of you turn up on a Thursday and there might be a few people there. It didn't matter who was playing. It was one of those very few clubs. Well, it was the only club in Swindon I've ever known that's got that kind of culture of everybody goes there every week, regardless of who's playing. Because it's going to be a good night.
Yeah.
Of course, it helped that they served people under the age of 18. That obviously helps to bring in a crowd.
Yeah.
But it definitely had the vibe was always absolutely crazy. I mean, I know you were there at our first gig, Steph. I remember you.
Yeah.
I remember you being there.
I remember it well, yeah. So I mean, the local scene when I first got into it was like the early noughties, and it was there was a place in Swindon that was like Area, and it was level. But I think actually maybe that was like an established venue, so you'd have bands that would be coming from all over the UK or sometimes overseas, because we had a promoter there, didn't we, Carl? Who used to get bands from the States.
Tim.
Yankee Boy Promotions.
Yankee Boy, Tim.
I mean, those days were really good, because like you would just go to a gig to watch a band. You didn't know anything about them at all. Like there was internet around, but you didn't have like broadband, and you wouldn't, it's very unlikely.
Very early MySpace days.
No, we're talking like before that. I think, I don't know what, so I think MSN was like the thing at the time. But you would go there just to check out a band, just because you wanted to because you were interested in music, like punk music and stuff, and like the bands that were coming out of there were just like so good, and it was packed every time. The local bands like Carl's band, like I just loved it, and I knew that from listening to like all the stuff that I had found from like Goldfinger, Body Jar, Slick Shoes, Atari, stuff like that. I knew they were going to sound like that. So it was even more of a reason for me to go, but it was so cool, and it was you'll never get that again. Like you're never going to get a bunch of people that will want to go to a gig because just because it's a gig, But you're always going to get people now that want to check out the band before they go, and why not? You'd be pretty stupid not to, because the internet's there and everything for people to use. But at the time, you don't think anything of it, but now you look back, and that's like almost 20 years. That was a really like special time, I think, for me anyway. I guess because anyone's going to say that, but I mean, like some of the local talent we had coming out at the time, like Carl. I know, like I don't want to, but I used to love you. I was like a big fan of your band back then, like seriously. And there was a lot of egos back then, and I love the fact that you always came across like you weren't like that. You were just there for like because you loved playing in front of people, and you really gave that impression off.
I think I can definitely explain a lot of the stuff behind that, due to the fact that and the reason why I guess I got into playing pop punk music was because prior to this, I joined a band when I was about 16 years old with people who were considerably older than me, and they as by older like a good 10 years older than me. And they were into kind of like, I guess, a lot of like the goth stuff, so into like Nine Inch Nails and Marilyn Manson, Ministry, and that sort of stuff. So I was kind of brought in as almost like a metal guitarist to play onto dance music, so like this weird sort of like gothy dance music but with like metal guitars, right? And we had this super sort of extravagant and extremely camp singer, and you know we did a few shows, and all I felt from that was it just wasn't me, and it was too serious and sort of grown up. And then I ended up in like a new metal band. Yet again, the image in my head, and certainly from what music looked like back then, I'm talking around sort of 1997, 1999, you had the metal bands back then were fucking scary. They were always, compared to like metal nowadays, which are these kind of like skinny little boys with too many tattoos, and they're, you know what I mean, and they all look frail. Like metal kind of then was a bit more scary. They look fucking scary and intimidating, and that just wasn't me. It just wasn't me, dude. I felt like an absolute fraud. You know, here I am down tuning my guitar to like drop fucking C, and sort of like, you know. And I just thought, and there I am, like barely a fucking pube, and I just felt like an absolute fraud. And I just remember going, I can't do this anymore. And then in 1999, like I met two of my closest friends that are still my closest friends now. So I met Mark Thatcher and Gaz Brookfield, and they were kind of doing this, just having fun. They were doing pop punk stuff, and that was like when they were in Fanny Mallet. So I don't know how aware you are of Fanny Mallet, but I was kind of, they were like, do you want to come and be in, do you want, yeah, exactly. Do you want to come and join Fanny Mallet? And I was like, fuck yeah, I do. Because you guys, because to be honest, like, I was like, yeah, I do. Because I would watch them on stage, these sweaty people having fun. It was like so much banter. And to this day, if you know Mark Thatcher and you know what he's doing now, and any band that's ever been in, you mentioned earlier on, like Broken Daylight and, you know, with Jamie, and that, they're just fun people to be around. And, you know, and that was it. So from then I was like, no, this is more me. It's more juvenile, because I'm pretty juvenile and immature. And because I was like 18 years old. I didn't want to be like, because it was false, you know. Whereas these people bounce around on stage singing about girls and, you know, like insane.
Just not into girls. I get it.
but then we also had the stuff we could do back then as well. We couldn't get away with now. No way. Like we had a song called The Island of Lesbos. Like, do you know what I mean? And it was literally about exactly what you could imagine it to be about, you know. And so like that was fun. It was fun being in those bands and doing that. And that was when I was like, you know, Blink-182, we're listening to like Enema of the State and stuff. It's very childish, but rightly so, because everything culturally around that time was about having fun. You know, you watch Jackass, you watch Viva La Bam, and it was all about just fun and chaos and playfulness, and there wasn't that ego, because there was a lot of ego with metal and new metal. Do you know what I mean? It was all very much like walking around like you were fucking Johnny Big Bollocks and sort of like, you know what I mean? Whereas in pop punk, it didn't exist. It was like high five, and just being
for sure.
And I think you know, man, there was a lot of a bad feeling about pop punk back then. You know, a lot of people saying, "Oh, it's too simple to play and it all sounds the same." You know, it's the power chords and stuff like that. Once you've heard one song, you've heard it all. But for me, it's just, there's such an energy to it. And like, you know, there's such a, it's not like any other type of music. And I think that's why I really like it. It's kind of, you know, and the underground scene we had back then, it was so good, so good.
But just going back to Jamie Trowbridge, we've got a very different life now because our 6-year-old sons are best friends.
Yeah.
So our lives now are standing at the school gates going, where did it all go wrong? So yeah, it's a totally different world we live in now, me and Jamie, unfortunately.
Yeah,
but
that's it.
So other than the local gigs, can anyone remember their first ever time of seeing like a major band on a major label or festival?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the first ever kind of gig out of Swindon I ever went to, I can give you the exact date.
Oh wow!
It was the 18th of May 2004, and it was seeing NoFX at the Birmingham O2 Academy.
Wicked.
And it was just insane. It's I think I was quite a late bloomer when it came to going to gigs. So 2004, I'd have been 16, 17.
18.
Yeah.
I was 19, so yeah.
Wow, however old I was. Yeah, and it just totally opened my eyes to a totally different world. Like I'd been to a couple of local gigs and stuff, but I think once you go and it's the whole process of the queue and the whole process of rushing in. I mean, I've been to gigs in the past couple of years, like the same kind of bands. It's a totally different vibe now. It's weird. Like there's such a restraint on people where like it used to be part of the night to be kicked in the back of the head. Now if you're kicked in the back of the head, someone gets arrested. Like
it's assault. It makes like the news.
Absolutely, like I remember that gig was just insane. Like my t-shirt got ripped, like I almost lost a shoe. When you came out and you were just on top of the world, it was just the best kind of emotion. They're not the most emotionally
Fat Mike.
They're energetic, aren't they? And like I can imagine.
But
at festivals, and
just the most amazing band. I mean, I don't know if anyone's if anybody watched their Weekend at Fatty's, their live stream of their
in the garden
a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, my god, that was Car Crash, wasn't it? It's so funny.
That on YouTube.
But I mean, how they can still play those songs that good is just. I mean, you look at it and you just go. You can't dream. I mean, I saw them at Slam Dunk. Not last year. Well, I was with you, Steph. Not last year. The year before, 2018. 19. And that was also a very, very weird festival because you kind of had the main stage where what I would call.
That's weird. Two main stages, man.
But what was brilliant is that you saw the difference in the people who were at the kind of the fat record stage were totally different to the people who were at the main stage that had like Done Neck Deep, All Time Low headline. It was like two totally different generations of music lovers on the same field. It was so weird. Like
probably like a 10-year age gap as well.
This is it.
I mean, for me personally, I was going between the two stages. I mean, I saw Anti-Flag and Millencolin, and then I would go there and see maybe like a State Champs or a Neck Deep or something like that, because I just tend to love everything. But and you've got other tents there as well. So you've got like a lot of sort of post-hardcore, hardcore bands. I think a band called Counterparts, which I quite like to play in one of the tents. They're pretty cool.
But it was quite a nostalgic because there was also bands like Saves the Day.
Yeah, Kids.
11.
Yeah. So it went like Get Up Kids, Saves the Day on the same stage, and you were like, this is like being at Warped Tour. Like it was crazy. It was like it was definitely a generational thing. But there's like 15-year-old girls walking around in bras, and you're going, you've never even heard of these guys. Disappear. Yeah, for sure.
No, it's a great festival because from when it started, Hatfield University, which was a good little place for it. But now it's expanded and it's got so much bigger. And
It was huge, absolutely huge.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe how big it was.
yeah. I mean, I can't see it happening this year, unfortunately, but
No.
hopefully, it does, because I think in a way that's kind of replaced Reading, because the lineup of Reading the last few years has been so different from what people are used to.
Yeah,
for sure.
It really has took a drastic change. I don't think that's a generational thing, because it's happened. But I mean, if you look at the lineup from just say 3 or 4 years ago to what they've got now, it's crazy. But yeah, how about you, Carl? Can you remember your first gig?
First gig I ever went to was to see Bush.
Really?
Oh, great band.
Yeah, it was Bush. It was when Razorblade Suitcase came out, so it was about 1997. It was at the Portsmouth Pyramid, and I went with
great swimming
my friend
pool.
Ravy Dave. Yeah, great swimming pool, and we went there, and there's a cool part to this story, because I know you're a No Doubt fan.
Yeah.
Was the side doors, but on the side of the stage, opened up, and who stood there? Gwen Stefani.
Oh,
yeah.
She's so
we were all like, oh my god, because obviously we were aware of the fact that Gavin Rossdale and Gwen Stefani were together at this point as well. And yeah, man, but that was a good show, and it was the first show I'd ever been to, and nearly got crushed, because it was against one of these things. I still remember about 100 people all decided to sit on the floor, probably about middle of the crowd, just fucking sat down. And then when Bush, like, the intro started for them, a whole bunch of people surged forward, but then these people were sat on the floor, so then everyone just fell on top of them, and it was like almost like a crush, and everyone's like, oh shit, and I just remember thinking, like, fuck me, am I gonna die here? Because I think I was like 15 years old or something, like 15 or 16 at the time, so I was like, oh shit. But yeah, that was a good show, man.
But the rush of having that experience, it was just that first time when you're like, I'm not moving myself, it's the crowd that's moving me. So there's no feeling like it. There really isn't.
Yeah, it's weird. It's very very weird. And obviously, you know me, I'm a small guy. So I've normally got someone's shoulders sort of up here, and I'm sort of like bang off of everyone. I can't breathe. Anyway, so I just try to I just want to be anywhere where I'm not going to die, because I'm the sort of person who get crushed and then no one will notice that there's this crushed little person, just sort of but yeah, it was Bush, Razorblade Suitcase tour. I think it was about 96 or 97, I reckon that was. But yeah, that was it.
So I kind of went in the deep end when it was my first gig, because I went to Reading Festival in 2003. Because Blink were headlining, and obviously after Hammer, I got Take Off Your Pants and Jacket, getting massively into them. That was just incredible. And the bands throughout that day I saw, Finch and Alien Art Farm.
Wow.
Some really good bands just before them as well. And Linkin Park were actually on before them. I wasn't a fan really of them at the time, but really kind of wish that I watched the whole set. Because I've kind of grown to appreciate them now. But yeah, I mean, that was just amazing. I was 17 at the time, and just to see still one of my favorite bands now, it's just incredible. And I've seen Blink about 10 times, and nothing will ever beat your first time seeing them. It just won't be done. And that was before the self-titled record, so.
Yeah, I mean, the first time I saw Blink was the year after. It was 2004 in the November at the NEC. So I think this.
I went to that tour.
I think the entire record had just dropped.
Yeah, it dropped in October, so they were touring for that album.
Yeah, and. We queued outside in 3/4 lengths and Hurley t-shirts for 8 hours in the middle of November, like complete idiots, just to get on the barrier. And
I think I did something similar as well. I kind of went to 2 dates. I think they toured in 05 as well. I'm pretty sure they toured. So they toured 04 and 05. I went to those two tours.
Yeah, I was going to say, did they not play Reading again in 05?
No, they played Reading in 2000, 2003, 2010, and 2014, and I saw
Yeah.
them all but the year 2000.
So I saw them then. I then saw them when the Neighbourhoods record dropped at the O2 in Dublin.
Oh, that was a good time.
Yeah, that was probably you can't be that 0304 generation, because I think that was the real Blink.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed seeing them in Dublin, just because I think Tom had started to sort his kind of it was just before he went a bit mad.
yeah.
Which obviously was I think we should do a whole episode on Blink, because I can talk for
Yeah,
Blink
we can. Yeah, for sure.
hours. And I saw them a couple of years ago, as the Imposters, as I call them now, with with Matt Skiba, and I love Matt Skiba. I love Blink-182. I do not love Matt Skiba with Blink-182.
Okay.
I hear you, man. I hear you.
Yeah.
Big Matt Skiba fan, big Alkaline Trio fan.
Yeah.
It was actually
same.
one of the reasons why I bought tickets for Slam Dunk, because obviously Alkaline Trio are playing it. They are one of those bands that I've never got to see.
They're good.
Yeah. I just don't think it works with. There's 100 people I would have stuck in there instead of Matt, because I just don't think it is. We were saying earlier about Blink and how the ease of the guitarist and the stuff. Actually, it isn't about how easy it is. It's about the style of play.
Yeah.
And I think the perfect example of how difficult those Blink songs are to play the way Tom plays them is to watch Matt Skiba play exactly the same songs with the same band. It's like a totally different song.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I think it's because he tries to add his own spin on it, doesn't it? And then, I think I've seen.
It's in the fingers, man, as well. Like,
yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
I think it's with guitarists and stuff. There's a lot. It is in the fingers. It's in your. A lot of tone is in the hands. I swear.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can go out there and you can go and buy the same Mesa Boogie dual rectifiers, and you can go and get exactly the same 335s and stuff like that, and you can modify them in the same way and whack in the same pickups and stuff like that. But so much tone comes from just how people play and silly little things. I was watching Chad from Newfound Glory, like playing some of his stuff.
On YouTube. I've been watching it as well.
Instagram,
and you see that, and when you actually see him play it, and he's like, it's a perfect example. So I hear a lot of people trying to play this riff. He says, but what I noticed you're all doing is none of you are playing it just solidly on downstrokes. Why? Because it's really fucking hard to constantly downstroke everything when it's that fast. But to him, because he does it all the time, and it's just his natural and it's
that's how he wrote it. That's how it was written.
It's muscle memory.
Muscle memory is a big part of it and stuff like that. Another when we talk about like rhythm players and stuff like that, Billy Joe Armstrong from Green Day. If you like, I've heard his guitar tech talk, and lots of people talk about his playing. He hits the strings so fucking hard, it's unreal. Apparently, he's like his attack is unreal. It doesn't look like he's doing that hard, but it's pure power, and that's what
but you can hear it. You can hear it. Like, do you Welcome to Paradise? That first riff. Yeah. It never sounds the same when you play it. It never sounds like he played it, because you can just hear the attack. It's just so aggressive, and it's one of the things. I mean, do we now play in a Blink-182 tribute band? And me as a guitarist decided that I would play bass, because I thought, if I'm going to do a lot of the singing, bass parts would be easier.
Yeah.
How I underrated Mark Hoppus as a bass player for so long is a travesty. Yes, a lot of it is simple notes, but the playing style and the just the simple bits that you don't realize make a song. Just those little riffs, and I don't sound anything like him. I've bought his bass. I've got his sound.
His t-shirt.
I even bought his fucking t-shirt. Just to see if that made a difference to the sound. It doesn't. But it's such a big thing. I think is Durham is having the right strumming pattern, making sure that you're doing those bits makes such a difference.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. I mean, it just goes back. I mean, Blink is a perfect example. You know, Matt Skiba's playing the same songs. Does he sound like Tom playing guitar? No. I don't think Tom was the best live guitarist,
but actually, if you watch them, because obviously when we start to look at the tribute, I watched so many videos. Tom keeps stuff really, really simple. Most of his muting is single notes, because actually it's much tighter. Everything, actually, the sound he's got and the pickups on his guitar, he doesn't need to do a lot of the work on it. He just let the guitar and the pickups do the work. And I think the simplicity of it makes it stand out as a riff, where someone's trying to play the riff to kind of impersonate it, I guess. It's a very different kind of vibe.
I think the thing is with them as well is like they can afford to fuck up, because Travis will just pull out some amazing drum solo. Everyone will just be looking at him playing drums, and then they'll be.
It's one of those things,
I've seen it on stage. I've seen them mess up a song. I think it was Anthem Part 2. They messed up the second verse, and to make up for it, Travis just literally went into a frenzy of the drum thing, and everyone was just like,
smoke and mirrors.
Wow. You know, when you saw him, did he come out from like the middle of the crowd?
When I saw him, I saw the rotation.
Yeah. That was awesome.
When I saw him, he came up and he kind of sat a little bit higher up in front of the stage, and he did his kind of hip hop kind of drum solo. But I mean, the thing is,
get away with
it. What's amazing about Blink is that you watch videos online, and I think what's missing when you watch the videos online is the atmosphere, the whole vibe of their kind of the way they make you feel at a gig is totally different to watch them. You watch them on YouTube and you go, they're really not very good live. you know.
I think when a band has been around for so long, like them or Green Days, people will see old videos of them and expect it to be like that. It's never going to be that, because they've got a generational fan base now. If you think about it, they've got fans that only know Blink from, well, Matt Skiba. You know, you could have some Blink fans that got into them from them records, and then you've got fans from way back from like Cheshire Cat days.
Yeah.
And that's 3 decades. So,
but there's quite a few bands like that, and I think with Jimmy Eat World recently doing those concerts recently, where they've done Clarity and Futures and Survival and stuff. So the multi-generational support effectively, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I'm guilty of this, certainly with Green Day. I like Green Day up to a point, and it's, you know, because I can tell you right now, I've never listened to Undo's Trace.
No.
I couldn't tell you a song on it. I couldn't tell you one song on that.
Yeah.
American Idiot
is a bit of a risk. You know, it's a risky move.
Well, it wasn't that.
For me, after American Idiot,
changed. Yeah, same.
Yeah, after American Idiot, I just don't. I was actually looking in preparation for this. I was looking, and there's 4 more albums after that, and you go. But also, what you got to remember is that I saw them at Reading, 2004, and they just released American Idiot, and you're going American Idiot is only a couple of years old.
No, it's been a long while. Scary.
It's 18 years old. It's 18 years old.
Yeah.
Of course, they've released 4 or 5 albums. Why wouldn't they? You know.
Yeah.
And it's one of those weird things where when you're a kid, you sit there and you go, "Why is my dad still listening to the same music he listened to when he was a kid?"
Yeah.
And you get to a certain age and you go, "Shit, I'm doing the same."
Yeah, that's
definitely. I mean.
And doing this podcast, like I said earlier, it's made me think of that. So music from 20 years ago. Oh, you mean the 80s, like Bon Jovi and Def Leppard? No, because time was gone since then.
I mean, for me, I've now got a 13-year-old son, and he.
What's he listening to out of interest?
he's not listened to Blink-182. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Like he loves H and kind of that kind of modern kind of
H.
rap. They're not H from Steps.
That's what I was thinking.
That's what I thought. I was like, oh, he does listen to Blink, but he likes Steps from the 90s.
No. So H is this like new rapper who,
Okay.
Yeah, it's big at the moment.
yeah, and stuff like KSI and kind of it's
The YouTube guy.
Derry. It's all about this, and he's now got my youngest. Well, Derry was my youngest until 3 weeks ago. Got him into like kind of beat drop, kind of like Dizzy Rascal. We're in the car and he goes, "Oh, can you put like Bangarang on Skrillex?" And I'm like, "Pardon? You're 6 years old. What are you asking for?" And yeah, it is that reality of going, oh, the music I listen to is 25 years old. You know,
Yeah, pretty much. But I mean, there's still plenty of awesome bands that I'm sure we'll get into on like other podcasts and stuff that are still going. The worry is COVID is going to take such a big hit on the music industry. I mean, for everyone, you know, not just music, but it's going to take some. You know, there'll be bands out there at the moment that have been on a break since like March, and they've, you know, time's moved on. We just don't want to do this anymore, or what, for whatever reason. You know, they don't know when they're going to play live. You know, those bands that were kind of on the cusp of maybe something.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
it's kind of like I kind of feel like because of that, we've missed out on so much music that we'll never, you know, who knows what might have happened. There may have been some band that just exploded, and like, you know, the same way a Nirvana did, or, you know, or a Green Day.
I think also the other way though is that bands have had time to reflect on what they've done up to now, to maybe plan another. It's as Dare as a local musician, Dare in a function band, we haven't played since March. We're almost a year since we actually physically played, and we are going to be fucking rusty. You know, I mean, it isn't just that. It isn't just that thing of playing in a band. It's the ability to go out and play for 2 hours a night.
Yeah.
Everybody takes for granted that is something that you just do. When you've been playing every week for 2 years, and you have a 2-week break, you go back and your voice goes, "Oh, that was a bit tough." After 3 months, your voice is really tough. After almost a year, God knows.
Yeah,
it is. Yeah, you are right in terms of there will be musicians that have decided, and do you know what? I can't afford to do this anymore. You know, it's a tough industry at the top, let alone the bottom. Go on, what you saying?
So I was just saying, it's a ruthless industry.
Absolutely.
And it's ever changing as well, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. So sure. Top 5 songs. It's been a great chat. Like, we've got through so much. I think we've covered everything that we set out to do. So it's been really cool. Does anyone have their 5 songs that they want to go through first?
Go on, Carl.
Okay, so one of them, 21st Century Digital Boy by Bad Religion.
Good choice.
It was the first Bad Religion song I ever heard. Yeah, again, it was on a skateboarding like video compilation that someone had loaned me, and I remember going back to him going, "Who's this band who does this 21st Century Digital Boy song on there?" Because it was like, it didn't have the credits; it was just like music in the background. And he was like, "Oh, that's Bad Religion," and he goes, "This is great." He goes, "If you give me £15 because I need to buy some weed, I'll give you my entire Bad Religion back catalogue." So he gives me about 7 Bad Religion vinyls and about 4 Bad Religion t-shirts just for £15, so you can buy weed.
So if only there was somebody like that around all the time.
I know. That was it. So I was like, yeah, 15 quid, that's fine. So I gave him 15 quid, got all this cool vinyl. And that was one. The other one is it's Green Day, Basket Case, probably, because that was the reason why I picked up a guitar in the first place. I saw that, and then pretty much that year was the year I was asking my parents for a guitar. Although I did that thing where I said I asked for drums first because I knew they'd say no, and I could work them down to the guitar. So that's like my conniving way of doing it. Bad Habit by Offspring. I don't know if you've heard that song, but I think as a young kid, because it had lots of swear words in it, and that was kind of like, I used to go into record stores and look for the explicit tag, parental advisory, because it's like Eminem said about like how kids would hide his tapes away from their parents, and I like the bands that you kind of like wouldn't want to put on around your parents because you didn't want to hear them say fucking bugger. So, and then probably Blind from Korn. So on that Korn album,
from your metal days.
Well, yeah, I just that album, I liked it, and it's it's this 1994 period. It's all of this pretty much is 1994, because these were the 5 songs that kind of influenced me right from the very start. And yeah, that's only 4. I'm trying to think what the probably Linoleum by NoFX as well.
Awesome.
Such a great song.
But again, same thing. It's 1994, but it's just a bout of a track. And to be honest, that it's the sort of stuff that influenced my playing at the time, because it's kind of loud and thrashy, and distortion was on 10, and that was cool. That's what I like.
Yeah, for sure.
How about you, Steve?
So I mean, I've gone down a slightly different route. I've picked songs that kind of represent moments in my life. So I've put All the Small Things. Well, although it's the most overplayed song in the world, if it wasn't for that song, I don't think I'd be here today. In terms of music, not like absolutely, yeah. yeah.
Still be here.
I'd still be here, but I wouldn't have this or this, Then I think the song Futures by Jimmy Eat World.
Oh yeah, so good live as well. That song
it just reminds me of a generation where we were just like, there was that kind of age where you were kind of dabbling with girls, and you'd have breakups, and kind of you'd put your Futures record on and go, they're so right, yeah. And I'm following on with that. My controversial choice, because no, Steph's not a fan. It's a song called "When I'm With You" by Simple Plan, which is off there.
I don't want any negativity on this. I'm just winding you up. I was just saying there are other bands other than Simple Plan. You can have them.
Simple Plan are a great band, band. But I just remember kind of 15, 16, when we'd have like people around the house, and kind of you'd have it during this song just reminds me of that era, like having it on super loud and us all kind of singing the harmonies along really badly. Then 4 Years Strong, Heroes Get Remembered, was a breakthrough for me. That it probably one of the bands that from the newer generation that I actually completely took on board. There for a long time I was stuck in my 2000s album releases. There was nothing that had been released from Stafford to go, "Yeah, this man," I'm not interested. Not interested at all. And when I heard that song, and I was like, fucking hell, like it literally it is when a song just gets you and you just think became a big fan, which pushed me on stuff like A Day to Remember, which I probably wouldn't have ever gone that way. But just that progressive kind of guitar music. And then Online Songs by Blink-182. Not only is it my favorite Blink-182 song, but I've just named my daughter Josie.
Really? Oh,
so
really good.
Yeah, it is, which is why I got this for my birthday, because it's all kind of me and my missus met through that kind of bond of Blink.
Well, dude, there is a Blink song called Josie as well.
Yes, there is, but it isn't as if it's about how that one's really about how badly you treat your girlfriend. I didn't think I'd yeah.
Picture
not really
context.
The right vibe. yeah. But yeah, no. So that's my vibe. And just because you only put 4, I picked another one. I've got the song "Dumb Reminders" by a band called Nose for a Name.
Yes. Oh
Yeah.
man, so good. I can't believe there's so many bands, that we can talk about, but they're definitely, one of those bands. I mean, it's so sad what happened to Tony Sly.
Yeah.
There was one of the reason I picked that is because it was one of the first kind of covers we looked at as when I finally got like a full band together of like 2 guitarists, a bass and a drummer. That was one of the first songs we played together. It was like kind of first moment where you're like, oh
yeah,
there it feels like we're a real band, we're playing a real song. We've all had that kind of feeling. So yeah, that's my 6.
I'm glad that's cool. Yeah, for any listeners or whatever, I'm gonna like make a playlist of all these songs, and I'll put it in the description below. So if anyone wants to check that out, they can. So my top 5 was kind of the sort of songs that got me into sort of punk and rock. So yeah, obviously I've gone for Goldfinger Superman because it's the first punk song I ever heard, and that riff, that intro riff, as soon as that hits, everybody knows it. It's a great song live as well. So good. I've gone for a Blink song. I've gone for Eminem's. I think just because that kind of like there's so many Blink songs that I love, obviously, but that kind of captures everything that I love about this type of music. The intro riff is so fast, it's so energetic, it's so catchy. It's just everything I love about it. Then I've gone for Body Jar, Not the Same. Now, not everybody will be familiar with this band, but they had that one song on Tony Hawk's 3 called Not the Same. And if you haven't heard it, then check it out because it's so good. Yeah, they're from Australia. They don't really sound Australian, but they're really cool. Millencolin, one of my favorite bands still today. I've gone for No Cigar. That's just a timeless classic. Just such a good, again, just so much energy. I saw them, funnily enough, I went on a weekend trip to Stockholm a couple of years ago, and I knew they're a Swedish band. They sing in English, and I had no idea that they were playing in Stockholm. And then I found out that when I was there that they were playing in this theme park of all places. And we were in the theme park at the time, and then I'm seeing these posters up with Millencolin, and I was like, that can't be this weekend. That'd be too good to be true. And then I found out they were actually playing it, and I honestly, it's such a weird feeling knowing that one of your favorite bands was about to play that you didn't even expect to see, because what happens is you get you pay to get into the theme park, and they have every Saturday they have a band that plays on like a big stage in the theme park.
That's
crazy.
So it's already been paid for. I've just got to stay a little bit longer than what I was expecting to. And honestly, one of the best gigs. I mean, have you ever been to a gig on holiday out of interest?
Yeah, no, I haven't.
It's a great feeling.
No.
Sounds sick.
Yeah, it was really cool. And then I changed my mind. I was going to go for a Descendants song, but I think because I'd mentioned them earlier on this podcast, No Doubt, Don't Speak, just because I think that was the first time I saw a band on MTV that, captured a whole band. And that song was pretty big for me. So yeah, those are my 5 songs. So I'm going to put them on a playlist on Spotify for everyone to check out. And yeah, that was the first episode. So cool.